Hey guys, it's Burke and Dotson back with another low poly Panda review. This time we're looking at Dying Light 2. Really the best of the zombie co-op games. I'll say it right up front, better than Left 4 Dead, better than Dead Island, State of Decay, 7 Days to Die,
Back for Blood.
Back for Blood, Killing Floor, World War Z. There's a lot of zombie
There is
games.
a lot. This,
Man.
this one does it right. This one
Well,
does
let
it
me
right.
yeah, let's talk about what it does right. First off, I think really good looking game. The city's full of life or undead rather, and all the models look really good. The volatiles coming out look creepy enough, and the city and the cars are run down. It looks like it's been in a zombie apocalypse for 15 years, so it all makes sense story wise. A lot of good horizons to look out over when you're on rooftops, and graphically, I can't really fault it.
Yeah, it's a pretty game. It's not. I wouldn't say it's going to blow you away with graphics, but it's pretty enough for the next gen systems, and I'm sure any computers that are out there that you're running, it probably looks even a little bit better. But yeah, overall, pretty nice open world that you could get in and kill zombies. That's the moral of it, right?
And that's all you want.
That's what
And
we're
that's
here
all you
for.
want. And then sound wise, you can definitely hear all the zombies, and where they are in relation to you, whether they were running at you or getting riled up because they could hear you. All the explosions for bombs and traps and slapping people like Will Smith did at the Oscars, or if you have a bat or an axe, and weapons all sounded good bouncing off walls and off heads.
I will say I remember some of the times we were creeping around in some of the abandoned buildings. It was all dark in there, and then you hear the monsters breathing, or if you step on something, you hear them kind of get alerted and come to you, and the sound is good, and it plays that level that you want in this, and it's good. It's good sound. Good sound.
The only problem I think with sound was on your end because you had my fat ass sitting there just going the whole time we
No,
were playing, and I'm sure that didn't help.
that did remind me though. There was a couple times where your guy got hurt and he kept kind of grunting and he just continued it for like a good 45 minutes, and I was real tired of your crap at that point.
Man, it sounded like he was getting worked over because it happened on your guy once too as well. You get injured to a point where you need a bandage, and for whatever reason, the sound just stuck. I think because we've gotten to a cutscene right after,
Yeah.
and it just carried over, and your guy's just sitting there going,
Yeah, imagine the Peter Griffin one where he falls and hits his knee and he's holding it. That's what happened for 30 plus minutes. It was great. It was great.
yeah, it's a good excuse for swinging a weapon at somebody. But gameplay wise, I think that's where the real bread and butter of the game is, and I think we should talk about the good first. The
Totally.
parkour was great.
Oh, phenomenal. Phenomenal. I mean,
Phenomenal.
just the ability to. This is stuff you want to do as a kid that you couldn't, is run around a city and jump off buildings and jump into cars, sans the
Fucking
zombies.
childhood did you have?
You didn't want to do that?
Jump off a
I wanted
building?
to be like Spider-Man and stuff. And this game scratches that itch for me. It is very cool to do some of this parkour. I didn't play. What was the Dark Mirror? Is that? I'm getting my stuff all mixed up.
Dark
What was
Mirror?
it? Mirror's Edge. Mirror's Edge. There was something with
Oh,
mirrors.
yeah.
I played that. And that was pretty good. But this is. I don't know if I would say if this is better or not. Just if you compare them on the parkour level, it's really good though.
Yeah, the parkour is really good. The wall running, the climbing, the jumping, sliding. I mean, it's all there and it's all good. And I really liked it. And on top of that, the leveling system that they have really makes you feel more powerful and better the higher that you get with parkour, and more stamina and more parkour abilities and more traversal options. But the real game changer that you unlock is the drop kick. And man, sailing through the air and kicking somebody so hard in the chest that their shoulders touch, for them to get flung 20 feet back and off a 30-story building, was my favorite form of combat.
Most of the game was just you see these 2 feet missiles, as I'll call them, just coming in at zombies, people, anything, trash cans, cars. I mean, everything was getting lit up with feet in the game, and it was very satisfying. It really was.
Yeah, it was kind of annoying to spend 15 grand on a weapon that you put fire and poison on, and it shocks electricity, and it's like this huge machete. And then all we're doing is just drop kicking people off of cars.
Yeeting people off the roofs of buildings left and right, and you tee up for it. And there was a couple times where we overshot because there's a little bit of extend and follow through on it, and you go off with them, but it's worth it every time.
Absolutely. On zombies and humans alike. And you shouldn't be in our way if you don't have a parachute and aren't prepared to have your chest caved in. I never felt like it wasn't good to use. I don't care what kind of small space we were in. You line up that drop kick and let the other guy tank while you just line it up and run in.
Oh man.
And you could hit crowds of people too. Like it would hit 2-3 people in a row.
And it did damage too. It's not like it was just fun to do it. It did work. It really did. It was very effective.
Oh, especially when you combine it with the stomp that you can do on their head when they're on the ground, because it knocks them down every time. But I found myself backing up from the stomp just to drop kick them again because it was so enjoyable.
I gotta say, after a long day of work, this game is a game you need to play. The stress it just releases from your body after drop kicking. I can't even talk. Drop kicking and then smashing heads.
Your mouth's salivating thinking about it. That's the problem. You
just losing
I'll
function.
get one of those in. And a stress reliever, I think, is a good way to phrase it because it's not a very stressful game. I never found that we were in a challenging situation, except maybe a few times when we were being idiots.
Yeah.
Not sneaking around a dark zone like we should have been, or down in the subway tunnels.
Yeah, or going in a dark zone where we didn't know what the hell we were doing, and there was poison, and everything was coming after us. But yeah, other than that, a couple times maybe at night where there is chase things where you can build up your. It's kind of like in GTA where you get the stars with zombies, and that can get a little bit out of hand sometimes. But other than that, yeah, not really anything challenging too much. Maybe we're just that good.
Well, that's what it is, And even during the chases at night, we've unlocked every point that you can unlock. So you always had a safe house and black lights that you could run to for safety close enough.
Yep.
You were never really in danger. But, it was still a good game.
Yep. Great game for co-op.
I think when we were playing it, you talked about Dying Light 1 and the difference between night then and night now.
Yeah, so this one, in nighttime, it didn't feel as dangerous as it did in Dying Light, the first one. There was volatiles that would come out. This one had them, but it felt like it was more in this specific zones, the dark zones, and other parts of the missions that it brought you to. But it wasn't really, no special zombies really were out except in certain areas. And that's what kind of killed that factor for me. You could stay out at night, but man, I would love to have seen special zombies and different things out there to kind of push you and challenge you at night.
Yeah, because even the special zombies that they had, whether it was the big tanks or the GRE anomalies that you go to, we just made them look like punks.
Came in with the drop kicks again. They couldn't stand.
And I think that was the most satisfying part on the first game. You're right. At first when we were playing the original Dying Light at night, it was, we got to get back to a safe house. Yep. Dark is coming. And then by the end of the game, you're the hunters, dropping in and putting zombies in headlocks. Like, who's you bitch? All right. But, the game was still good. We played the whole thing in co-op on the PS5. And in total, it took about 35 hours. And that was with us clearing, like I said, all capture points and a lot of side missions.
Yeah.
But speaking of the main story to clear, it was, there were a lot of skip combos we did and people we never cared about. And I don't want to spoil it, but the ending sucked. I looked it up and there's multiple endings. Some good, some bad, they say, but it didn't matter. They didn't have a lot of closure for everything you just went through.
Yep. Yeah, I was going to say, co-op was very nice. There were some good points about it, too. You could fast travel to your partner, and you were not tethered to them at all. So if they were at an action or mission spot, or you just couldn't parkour that well to a certain spot, they could get up there with you to progress the story, or just to get up there to collect anything that needed to be collected. We were going to touch on classes, too. I know we're getting into a little bit of the bad, but you have classes with the gear that you pick. They didn't really feel like they stood out much, and there was much difference between the two. Maybe you might have noticed something if you went Ranger class with the bow and arrow. You might see a little bit more damage tick off with fully equipped with the Ranger. But other than that, I didn't really notice or feel anything different with the gear that you had, too.
Yeah, I went a full medic build the entire game just to try to keep bandages and heals up for those times that not really we got hurt in combat, but we, missed the ledge when we were jumping was mostly what happened. And even fully kitted out in full medic gear at level 7 or 6 or whatever we were at the end that was purple and gold, I had maybe 10% more healing and maybe half a second faster. It just wasn't worth it. I think you had the better approach. You kind of transitioned in between a few classes of gear throughout the game just to have the best gear score, and I think you had the better build the whole time.
Yeah.
But getting into the bad, I think we should talk a little bit about the bugs. We'd be remiss not to mention the game's got some. A few of the small ones that popped up were shops that would turn into craft masters. So you'd get within 30 meters of them, and then all of a sudden it would change from a shop that you could sell and buy at to a craft master that you can't do anything with.
That was annoying.
Or, oh man, we'd have a couple times where a conversation wouldn't load. Like we'd click on somebody to talk to them. Nothing would happen, so then we'd walk away. We'd be a block and a half away, and then all of a sudden the cutscene would pop up and it'd be like, oh, why are you bothering me? And you're like, well, who? Zombie talking. And then You talked about fast traveling and loading different places if you weren't good at parkour. Well, if you weren't good at parkour, fell to your death and respawned in a safe room, sometimes that safe room was locked. A cabinet was in the way that you had to open from the outside, and there was nothing you could do.
Nope.
We had some bugs in co-op for like pre-discovered stations and fast travel points for me weren't persistent through the game loads, even though I know you and I had been there.
Mm-hmm.
And I know the big breaker for me was we had 2 different missions where we were either getting chased or chasing somebody. And the guy we were chasing or getting chased by just didn't load, so we couldn't progress, and we ended up having to Molotov ourselves to death.
Yep. Other than that, I think you may have already hit on it, but we had 1 or 2. Well, I take that back. Could be 2 or 3 black screens on a cutscene. We were kind of coming out of one, and then the screen went black. It usually would go into the game afterwards. It just stayed that way, and so you had to kill the game to restart. But all in all, it wasn't as bad as I was probably thinking the game could have been with bug wise. So for being a big open world, not that bad.
Yeah, big open world, big game, and not too many game breaking
You're thinking about that drop kick still, I know.
Man, it gets me going every time. I can't stand up right now. But I think it was good. The 35 hours that we played into it, we had a few game breakers, but it was, 2 or 3 times. And we were playing co-op. It's network connected. It's when it first came out, not patched yet, so you'd expect some things to happen. It was unfortunate that it did, and be on the lookout for them definitely if you're playing through, but it's not something that I think would keep you away from the game. That being said, I think the game is a great choice if you have a buddy to play with. It is meant for co-op. It is much more enjoyable in co-op. And, the original DLC for Dying Light was great. I'm sure the DLC on this one will be great. So this game is worth picking up to play through with a buddy, and it's worth keeping for the DLC that's coming out.
I would agree. My takeaways too, I was going to say, is the story and acting. It's not a Last of Us 2 story. It's not that caliber. But you're not getting this game for that. You're getting it for the parkour and to kill zombies. So, and it definitely hits on both those marks really well.
Well, you heard it here first. 3 weeks after the game came out. So as always, we appreciate you watching and supporting the channel. Be sure to like, subscribe, and let us know what you want to see next in the comments.